Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, in today's episode, we're talking about the U.S. Department of Defense and new possible changes that could be coming our way in terms of the Department of Defense, the Defense Department, and especially in terms of its name. Yes, the Department of Defense, housed here at the Pentagon, one of the largest buildings on the planet, massive structure. I don't know if anyone has ever had the chance or the opportunity to go visit the Pentagon or simply drive near the Pentagon to get a good idea of just how big of this building is indeed. Now, obviously the U.S. quote-unquote Department of Defense was not always at the Pentagon. It has had several locations. Obviously, this is the newest iteration of the Department of Defense in terms of symbology. But you got to go all the way back to the early 1900s. What was then the Pentagon, essentially, was the State War Navy building located in Washington, D.C. They just don't make buildings like this anymore, do they? I don't even know if the capability to build buildings such as this even exist today within the construction community here in the United States. Again, if you go to some of these older buildings and have a look at them, they are a marvel of quality, and just the way things were built are completely different than the way things are built today. And I think even within the residential home community here in the United States, if you look at homes that were built back in the 50s, 30s, 20s, and you compare and contrast to the homes that they are building today, and the types of construction is vastly different in terms of quality, especially. But again, I'm kind of digressing here. And then the State and War Navy building, then a new facility was built during World War II. Obviously, as World War started, a larger, more robust infrastructure was required. And this building, which is now the headquarters for the State Department, was then transformed into or built for specifically to serve as the headquarters for the War Department. And the War Department existed until essentially 1947. The Department of War, the Office of War, the actual leadership was the Secretary of War. So in 1947, that was transformed into the Department of Defense. And now, fast forward to where we're at today, and the President of the United States, along with the Secretary of Defense, are now looking closely at changing the Department of Defense back to the Department of War. And hence, it would no longer be the Secretary of Defense, it would be the Secretary of War. Now look, this is pushback. This is a reaction to uncontrolled political correctness. Now, you guys can research where the term political correctness resides, but nonetheless, changing the Department of Defense was in some way politically correct. And now we are seeing a pushback to what the military is designed to do. The military is designed to fight wars, be it a defensive war or an offensive war. One could argue that the United States has fought both defensive and offensive wars. But at the end of the day, does calling the Department of Defense the War Department most closely fit its mission? And I would say, in all probability, that would be absolutely true. Absolutely true. I do believe The War Department was called the War Department for a much longer period of time. It goes all the way back to the late 1700s. So from essentially the late 1700s to 1947. The War Department was the War Department. It wasn't until after 1947 that the War Department then became the Department of Defense, headquarters at the Pentagon. So in my view, this is a pretty cool thing. Look, militaries are designed to fight wars. As I've talked about before, might equals right. History is written by the winners, and the winners are those who win wars. Not go on the defensive, but ultimately one must go on the offensive and defeat thy enemy. Thus, it is a war. And running a war is the War Department, not the Department of Defense. So again, this is pushback to what is occurring or what has occurred in the United States military in terms of wokeism, political correctness, and essentially the destabilization of our fighting forces that are designed to fight and win wars. It was more important just several months ago to be politically correct and have a transvestite as your possible commander than it was to find a person with a warrior ethos to lead men, and in some cases women, in armed conflict. And again, this is cause and effect. Simply cause and effect. We are simply going back to what was. And is there going to be pushback? Is the left going to lose its shit? Yeah, probably. Probably. And you'll hear about it. Oh my God, the Defense Department is now called the War Department. Well, the War Department existed again for a long period of time. Longer than the Defense Department. Now the question is, how long can we keep it the War Department? With a stiff spine? Quite some time. But as I'd said in the previous video, some things are going to have to occur to prevent this from reverting back to the Department of Defense. To prevent our country from having transvestites participating in armed conflict. All that nonsense has to go away. It is simply irritating black noise, that white noise that does not need to exist. So there we have it. The War Department. I like it. Have a good day.